Hi everyone, welcome back to Garden for Parker, and in today's video we're going to talk about 10 plants that are super easy to grow and super delicious to eat. So let's get started. Delicious. All right, first up we have strawberries. I love strawberries. I have two different kinds. Right here I am picking my Ever Sweet strawberries. I chose those because the catalog I ordered them from, which I think was Park Seed, describe them as being really good for growing in the heat and hotter climates. Strawberries are notoriously cool, loving plants. And so to find a strawberry that will grow in the heat is really a great find. And there's a couple different kinds of strawberries. Some are ever blooming. I forget the names, but there's one type that fruits once a season, and then there's other kinds that fruit continuously throughout the season, throughout the summer. And it's hard in hot, humid climates to find a strawberry that will keep producing fruit even in the heat, and this Ever Sweet one will. Okay, next up we have blueberries. And one note about blueberries is you need to have at least two different varieties that bloom at a similar time because they need to pollinate each other in order for you to actually get blueberries. And then another common problem is you need netting sometimes because the birds will get all your blueberries if you don't put a net over it. So here you see my blueberry with a net over it. And then next up I have my leeks. These also grow great for me in my hot, humid climate. Zone 8 is where I'm at. I actually grow these because I like the big globes they put out for their seed heads. They're like flowers. And I actually grow them for ornamental reasons, but leeks are delicious. So whether you want to grow them for ornamental reasons or for eating, they're really easy, and I cannot recommend them enough. And just look how great they look in my garden. I just love them. They really add some architecture. All right, here are my snap peas, and snap peas are really easy to grow in the spring. They like to grow in the cool weather when the days are getting longer. They do need extra sun to germinate, but once they get going, they're really easy. They don't need a ton of water, and they don't need a ton of attention. They don't get a lot of diseases, so they're really easy to grow and so delicious. And I just love them. I love that crunch that you get. And these are big crowd pleasers with the kids. If you have kids that do not like their greens, then this is a good one to try to get those kitties to eat something crunchy and yummy and green and healthy. And they are very healthy. They have like 300% of the vitamin C you need just by eating a few of them. They're amazing for that. I also like how they vine and they grow up trellises, so they're really attractive in the garden. And then here is an all-time favorite. I grow this every season. This is lettuce sandy, and it is a lettuce that grows well in the heat. Lettuce is another one that doesn't like to grow in the heat, but lettuce sandy, you're not going to find another lettuce that grows better in the heat. And it's beautiful, it's delicious, it's super easy to germinate. I gather seeds. I let one or two plants go to seed every season, and then just go out and shake seeds all over my property. And I just love having little surprises of lettuce sandy everywhere, including the patio cracks like right here. The next one is chives, and chives are really easy to grow. They kind of spread, but not too aggressively for me anyway, and they're pretty. And they're also just a great addition to your garden because you can just throw chopped up chives in almost any dish. They go well with everything. They're delicious in omelets. They're good to make sauces with, to almost act like a seasoning. And I just really enjoy my chives, and they're really beautiful when you grow a bunch of them together. And they have edible flowers. I just think that's a win-win-win. So I love growing chives. I think they're beautiful. They're easy. They will thrive in your hot Zone 8 garden. This isn't included in the 10, but I just wanted to show you because everyone needs to grow rosemary and thyme and these kinds of Mediterranean herbs. They're so easy to grow, and you'll use them in your cooking all the time if you're like me anyway. And this is my thyme, and then you saw my rosemary, and then this is actually a potted blueberry, and underneath it I have a raspberry that I don't ever get much fruit off of, but this is a miniature variety, so maybe that's why. All right, then there's cilantro. I grow cilantro, let it go to seed, and then throw seeds out on my property. And it's really easy to grow in the cool weather. It will not grow in the heat, but it's great to have in the spring and the fall. And next you're going to see my Swiss chard. That is rainbow Swiss chard. So the stalks have red and yellow stalks, and I grew them again for ornamental reasons, but I did find them to be pretty easy. They did need a good bit of watering, but they were disease resistant and they were beautiful, and they make for great greens for sauteing, and they grew great for me in the spring. They were beautiful too, so that's a lot of fun. And let's take a zinnia break. All right, next up, I want to show you my cherry tomatoes. I am not going to be showing you regular tomatoes because they are so very difficult to grow. They get all kinds of diseases, but these cherry tomatoes, look, here's another crack grower just volunteered in my patio, and look at all the fruit on it. And I didn't do anything. And these are tomatoes, and they're actually pretty good sized tomatoes. I wish I would have kept these seeds because I don't have them volunteering this year, but that makes me miss them, and they're so easy to grow. I highly recommend any kind of cherry tomato. All right, next we have malabar spinach. This grows in the hot humidity. I do think it's from Asia, and it can kind of self-seed itself and then kind of show up everywhere in your yard, but I do not find the seedlings to be hard to pull up. It's not a big deal, and they make a beautiful green. You can saute them, and they were so easy to grow, and they're quite beautiful. Look how healthy and lush they look. So this is an interesting one to grow. Some people will say they're invasive, and yes, they do reseed themselves pretty aggressively, but I didn't feel like they took over at the same time. It's pretty easy to pull up the little seedlings, and they're just a lot of fun. They grow fast, they're easy to grow, they love the heat, they love the humidity. So they're not native. So if you are big into having native plants to the US, these are native somewhere in Asia, I believe. All right, next up, shishitos. These are another one that will volunteer in your yard. They are delightful. They're wonderful sauteed. They are not too spicy. They're shishito peppers. And so they are very easy to grow. They volunteer in my yard, and the plants get tons of fruit that keeps putting out more and more peppers throughout the summer. So they're great to have. They will keep you well stocked in peppers all summer. All right, next up is kale. I do think this is some sort of dinosaur called kale. I'll have to look it up. This is a curly kale. And these, I have a hard time getting these to germinate, but once they start growing, they will produce beautiful leaves, and then they will come back every year. They are perennial. They were perennial, at least in my garden when I took care of them. When I stopped taking care of them, I had to sow the seeds again. But I did find them very easy to grow. They're beautiful, delicious, so healthy. So I can highly recommend growing kale. Okay, runners up that I just think deserve a mention really fast. All right, these are nasturtium. They like to grow in the cool weather, so they like to grow in the spring. They will die in the heat, but they will grow in the spring. They're edible, they're beautiful, and they're pretty darn easy to grow. So I wanted to mention them. So those were nasturtium.
Thank you so much for joining me on Garden for Parker. I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. Now go garden your world.